beautiful morning to you and welcome to Business Focus, the program that unravels the complexities of the corporate world and brings you insights from the forefront of industry innovation. I am Maria Ado-Zakari, and in every episode we dive into the dynamic landscape of global business, exploring trends, interviewing specialists, and uncovering the strategies that drive success. Stay tuned for a comprehensive journey through the ever-evolving world of commerce, where we decode the latest market moves and provide you with the knowledge to navigate the intricate web of business challenges. This is Business Focus, where business meets brilliance. On today's episode, we'll be... On today's episode, we'll be taking a close look at rising inflation and Nigerians' purchasing power. But before then, we'll take a look at the stock and commodity markets. Don't go nowhere, do stay tuned. Welcome back. We'll be taking a look at the stock and the commodity markets. Now we'll start with the highest trade. Let's see what the highest trade for today looks like. Okay, first there's Unity Bank at 33 trades at the volume of 6.985 million, and UBA comes second with 23 trades at the volume of 43,521. And the third on the list on the highest trades is MTN Nigeria at 23 trades at the volume of 12,931. Let's look at the top gainers. The top gainers for today on the list is Mercure, as you can see, at 10%, positive 10%. Second is Learn Africa at also positive 10%, and NNFM at positive 9.90%. Let's take a look at the losers. That's the bottom losers for today. There's Champion at the top of the list with negative 10%. Owando comes second with negative 3.72%. And last on the list is Interbreweries, International Breweries at negative 2.17%. Let's take a look at the commodity prices for today. Top performers in the commodity prices. There is rapeseed at 1.85%. Second is oats at 1.05%. And cotton is third on the list at 0.84%. Let's look at some of the commodities. We're starting with agriculture. Cotton is at the top of the list at the price of 0.78 at the percentage of 0.97% positive. Oats second on the list with 3.62% to 3.62 in price at the percentage of 1.19. And third on the list is lumber at 53,542, her price at negative 1.28 in percentage. We'll look at the next commodity. There's industrial metals. Industrial metals, there's aluminium at the top of the list at 0.74%. Second on the list, there is lead at negative 0.84%, and iron ore is third on the list at positive 0.19%. The next commodity, let's see, there is energy. Natural gas comes first on the list as Henry Hub at the percentage of negative 0.49, and ethanol is next at 0.05%, and heating oil is third at 0.00%. Let's see the next commodity after precious. We'll look at precious metals now. At the top of the list, there is gold at 0.33%. Second is palladium at negative 1.19%. And platinum at negative 0.16%. That's it for today. Stay tuned for our interview segment. Don't go nowhere. Today we are here with Mr. Steve Adisa to dissect de-inflation in Nigeria, particularly in October. Good morning, Mr. Adisa, and welcome to Business Focus.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here.
It's good to have you again. So inflation, the rise in inflation and the economic growth of Nigeria, the thing is just not looking good. How are the feelings of Nigerians about this?
You will agree with me that inflation, as we speak now, does not just happen overnight. We've been on steady inflation rise, and remember, sometime in May, it's been like over 24 months that we've been having inflation rise, and we need to go back to the very beginning. First subsidy removal, one of the factors. Also, you look at the FX market,
Yes,
which has become both the demand and supply, right? So they are the root cause. And as we speak now, the inflation rate is at 26.73.
Yes.
And all of this, if you put together, there is no how it's not going to affect us, especially when our determinant is actually on the first subsidy removal.
So you mentioned the we're at the rate of 26.3. The World Bank just made a study actually, that by the end of this year, 2.8 million people will be pushed into poverty. And the federal government seems, not take notice because they're aware of everything going on. But 2.8 people just going into poverty. The rate at which the inflation moves, it has been 24 months, and 24 months, yes, and the change is almost every month in inflation. Every month it increases. Every month it increases. So that means it came in before the removal of fuel subsidy.
Yes, we've been having series of challenges all along. Before the removal of fuel subsidy, you will also agree with me. What is the level of our export that can also reduce the load that we have? We keep borrowing, and debt is also a problem that we also need to talk about. Now, before now, it used to be 3 square meal for you. But now we are at the level where even if you manage to get a meal, you need to negotiate or look for other means to eat. So, what do we expect? World Bank with their figure, federal government with their efforts, and you will agree with me, even the government of the day have also, they are planning and working on rolling out different plans. One of it is what the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry are doing. First, about women, two, about to alleviate poverty, and you could see some of these trend movements all around the country. But importantly, our inflation rate is affecting not just the people at the city. The downtrodden are the ones suffering it most. And again, it will increase if nothing is done. And you also remember the federal government also did something by giving 5 billion to states. Also is a way of cushioning it. The question of interest now is who monitors who to see that this 5 billion is
put into place,
properly used. And out of the 5 billion, say about 2 billion is to be used to purchase rice within the system. How many states truly purchase rice that we have within the system? Because this is also a way in which you can strengthen the naira to also have a little way to battle with the dollar.
For the fact that the government mentioned rice is not the staple food in the grassroots area. And we're not talking about cities, we're talking about back at home.
Now, if you also look at that, we still have excess of certain amount of money. And the rice alone. Okay, for instance, you mentioned to me, I should go and buy rice. As a governor, I know the common food in my state.
True.
So I should be able to say, okay, I can use 1 billion to buy rice because we have a large quantity or large producers within this country. Then I begin to look at other things that households needs. And then we begin to put it on the table. Now, somebody who has not eaten, you can't tell such a person to go and fight. If you tell him to go and fight, it's going to be very bloody. So rather, what we do is, let's put this food on their table. Then we look at other ways. Cutting down cost of governance is also another way. So that we can have little or more money to do some certain things that will benefit the common man. I think these are just some of the ways in which governments need to look into it. And then, poor man don't know figure. That's just the truth. Poor man don't know figures.
And a hungry man also
don't know figures.
Okay, so we're going to look at some of the sectors that the inflation has affected. Which of the sectors? There's logistics, there's food and housing and utility, clothing and footwear. Which of the sectors has inflation hit the hardest?
As we speak now, food, from the statistics released by MBS, food production happens to be 50% of the total number of inflation rates. Okay. And we agree with me that inflation as of today, immediately you take food out, what else are you looking for? If a man is not hungry, he will be able to walk, he will be able to reason. But the determinant of even the food production is the oil. Now, there is a removal of subsidy that affects virtually all the sector. If you go back to transport, you go back to any sector you want to go, there is nowhere they don't use oil, for instance. So you need to also understand that all of this put together is coming from somewhere. Now, what are we doing to keep fighting it so that these common people, as we call them, we also have this relief? Oh, if I could not afford a meal yesterday, with what I've heard, the price of things will come down by tomorrow, and I should be able to eat. So food inflation, it's high, and that's number one, and that is where we need to also tackle it. And that's why I also love what the government did when they submitted their supplementary budget, and where we have over 800 billion as in Agric ministry. So this is just a way to also tackle the effect of fuel subsidy removal, and at the same time, it shows that governments are also aware that inflation is on the increase.
Okay, so on the food matter, the measures. What are the measures the government have taken to address the persistent security concerns? Because the food producing areas are kind of under attack by the miscreants. So,
well, as of today, series of meetings are going on. And I also, at least from what we read on the pages of newspaper and what we also see on the screen, we agree with me that the security apparatus of Nigeria has improved. Security apparatus have been improved, and people are actually interested in what they will eat, not what they will just sit back and say somebody is promising us that is bringing something for us. But at the same way, we also need to look at what is government doing. Number one, state governors they met at NEC meeting, and at the meeting at the NEC meeting, security was also part of what was discussed. And each state governor has been commissioned to also mind their states. You can't rule out a state governor from security. So they've also been talked to. The Nigerian police are also doing their best. But importantly, you will also ask me, who are the miscreants? Who are the brain behind this? Is it that some of these people are bigger than governments? Is it that some of these people are stronger than what a government can also confront? So government needs to also look inward. What can we do to appease these people? You remember, it's being under attack. Definitely our yam production and supply will drop, then go straight down to Benue, which happens to be the second. And at the same time, for more than 8 years, we've been having killings here and there. And at the end of the day, it drops down production as well. Now, calm down. The things you have far off are now happening in Abuja, who happens to be the number third. See, security everywhere. Not to talk, those are the few ones we can mention. Now, go to the far north where you see plantation of beans. How many farmers can go to the farm? I think 2 days ago, there is a news that popped up where in a particular state, they were surrounded and they asked each of these farmers to come and drop a certain amount of money if they want to have access to their farm.
You can imagine.
So if they don't have that money, the question now is, how do we get food? So we need to do more. The government needs to just do more. And security as of today has moved from hardware to software. And the government needs to also do more. I agree they may not be able to tell us what they are doing, so that the other people will also understand how they also need to decode it. But importantly, the government needs to help us. Because if we can take care of the food, I'm very sure the country is safe.
Okay, so can you elaborate on the impact of the Naira, of the Naira's weakness on inflationary measures?
Well, you know the factors that brought about this. And the factors that brought about this has to do with no longer will either CBN or the governments be providing strength for Naira. So ordinarily, Naira has to provide strength for itself and based on the supply of demand and supply. So when you have these two, you want, I have. Who is ready to buy? But again, we need to also ask ourselves, is dollar in circulation? Where are they?
There's even the scarcity of dollar.
So where are they? So is it that the same way we're having stockpile of Naira, we've begun to also stockpile dollar as well? So these are some of the things we need to also look inward. And again, this gives reasons to how do we intend to strengthen the Naira. You go to some schools within the system here in Nigeria, they will tell you pay in dollars. You can't strengthen your own local currency when you are using another man's currency to pay bills. You go to even in some hotels within the city, you see their rates, and they will tell you pay in dollars. Also, now the question of interest is it that those managers that are supervising or managing those institutions cannot instruct these people, let everything be traded in Naira? These are ways in which we can strengthen our currency. But I need to buy something. You can just imagine. You go to a common market, an open market rather, and in the open market you buy maybe tomato and pepper, and the seller says, pay me in dollar. Automatically you are weakening your own currency. So there are several institutions in Nigeria today that you discover that they are using dollar to pay instead of Naira. And again, that will not help us. Government needs to also help us again to look at, okay, repatriation. How are they repatriating money out of Nigeria? Because if you get this, how are they being paid? Are they being paid in dollar or you are being paid in Naira? So if they are being paid in Naira, automatically they will use the Naira to chase the dollar. But now when you pay people in Naira, it becomes a load again because they will mop it up with the same dollar. So we need to check inwardly what are the things that we are doing that is not strengthening the dollar, because we know our strength in exportation is a little bit low. We can't muzzle as such because what are the things that we are exporting? But when it comes to the things within the system, we need to also encourage our people. Let's begin to trade in Naira. These are common things. You can't go to America today and you tell them you stretch a Naira to them. They will look at you as if you are nobody. But when you stretch a dollar, they know you are your main business. So the same thing should be applicable here in Nigeria.
Okay. So housing, water, electricity, and other fuels, and clothing and footwear, transport and furnishings. How do they contribute to the inflationary pressures?
Interestingly, every sector is affected. You can't single out a particular sector in Nigeria today. And again, you say housing, you have to do. Now, I understand cost of housing has also increased, despite the fact that cost of whatever that comes to revenue has not increased in pockets of people. But all the same, everybody have a reason. How much are they selling a bag of cement before now? This is where we need to start. I remember sometime a particular company said they're going to cut down the cost. Is it ineffective? Question that we need to also ask from the market. All right. Now, cost of cement, how much are they selling iron for you to build? So all of this is what house owners will calculate together. If I can build at this rate, then I will also let it out at this rate. So we need to understand that if this person has not bought at the higher rate, he will also not give out at the higher rate. Now, let's go to every other sectors, one after the other. Now, you also realize that each of them, the determinant factor of all of these is still the oil subsidy. It's tied to it. Because remember, as at the budget of the beginning of this year, we were told that February will be the last day of subsidy. Now, the new government came in on the very day, it gave us a shocker. And there, we began to buy oil at the rate at which common man will just ask the question, how do I survive? So all of these have effects. I need to transport anything from anywhere it's being produced, you're going to use oil. So it is the oil that I buy that will determine how much I will also deliver, which also affects cost of productions. So when we marry all of these together, don't forget, you still have the human capital that you also need to pay. And again, the payment of the human capital, how much are you paying them? As we speak now, almost everybody is agitating for increase my money, increase my salary, increase my salary. Now, if you increase, who is going to be affected the most? So all of these effects put together is still as a result of the government are working on something, but now, an average Nigerian is impatient. We want it to happen like a magic. So if it doesn't happen on time, then they will begin to question the authority of the government. But the same, you can't single out any sector that is not affected today. Even those on government corridor, they are complaining, not to talk of common man who is always on the streets.
Okay, so how have government's decisions such as the elimination of fuel subsidy and reduced interventions in the forex, that's the foreign exchange markets, affected the inflation, especially in October?
Yeah, you know, Nigeria is a very funny country. Very, very funny country. When CBN were busy stretching the naira, putting more money, and then we were exchanging 470 something at official rate, but we are buying at sometimes 550, 650, depending on the flow. Now, nobody asked question. Now, change of government brought us to this level that, okay, we can't continue to do this. Why don't we leave it to the market to determine? Now, you will agree with me, official rate becomes 744 or 750 something, and at the same time, you see the black markets at higher rate of sometimes 1,000 plus.
True.
Right? Now, if you look at all of this put together, you look at it that if you want to buy as cheap as you polishing your slippers, a man will tell you, don't you know that dollar rate has increased? So automatically, we are the one killing our system. We are killing our system in the sense that how will shoe cobbler be telling you dollar rate has increased? Which means when the shoe cobbler also went to the market to buy items, they told him
That
dollar has increased. So the effect is coming to everybody. Now you can imagine a truck pusher who fetches water to sell, telling you dollar has increased as a reason why he cannot keep selling at that rate again.
That actually happened to me.
So now you begin to ask yourself, are you buying or selling in dollar? If not that, where he has also gone to buy, he told him there that dollar has increased.
So you increase the price.
Remember, fuel has increased. So the person may be living on generator to pump water. So if you are buying at 200 naira before, it will affect you also. Now, that's one side. Again, most of the things we do, all of us wants to trade in foreign currency. And it's also weakening our naira. Again, you talk about buying original things, they will tell you can only see it online. Online, they will direct you to many vendors online to buy from. Now, what happens to us locally? And I remember sometime back they say buy local to grow Nigerian currency. So all of this, we are shifting from what can help us Rather, we are now competing with somebody who is already stable. Dollar is just sitting on its own and it's not moving. And you are the one who is going to the dollar and go and be boxing. We need to fight. Shifts now. No, move a little bit. No. So we just need to look at it. How can we help ourselves as individuals? Government is doing theirs, but how can we also do as individuals? Reality. Subsidy has been removed. Facts. The FX market, CBN is not backing it up for any reason again. But importantly, let's ask ourselves, how can we also begin to defend so that even the FX can also have it that, oh, this economy are growing. Let's support them. And I think if we begin to do, it will be the better for us as a nation.
Okay, let's look at the healthcare sector. The healthcare inflation increased by 9.7% in October and in September 2023 at the rate of 1.50%. And I got the gist that there's a drug that sells at 35 but is now selling at 24,000 naira, and a drug of 17 is selling at 18,000 naira. So the increase is so much. Can the government subsidize at least the health sector? Because it's necessary for you need to be alive to be a Nigerian, to be productive, to and make the country developed.
Again, how many things will government subsidize for us? How many things? We complain, they subsidize diesel, they subsidize kerosene, they subsidize PMS. We complained, they remove subsidy on kerosene, they remove on the diesel, now they've removed on PMS. Plus every other thing. Do you know that if it is possible for an average Nigerian, they will say government should subsidize the importation of even cars.
Yes, if it's possible.
If it is possible, all right? Now, what we need to ask ourselves is, how on earth and where do we expect government to also get money to build infrastructure if we are to subsidize everything? Now, sincerely, I used to tell people, I wouldn't know if my research is accurate or not. But as of today in Nigeria, cost of production is high compared to what you can even bring in from any other nation of the world. So why is it high? You put together all the costs, all the heads that you need to bring together in terms of machine, in terms of man, in terms of money, in terms of anything. To put them together and set up a plant and begin production. Don't forget, you still also to fight the security. Sometimes you also fight the your neighbors. All right. Now, when you look at all of this, how much are they spending in diesel? How much are they spending on diesel alone for production? Not to talk of buying materials. Set up a small business. If anybody comes to your shop, even if rain is falling, give me a bottle of water. The next thing they will ask you, give me a cold one. What if you don't have what it takes to refrigerate that thing? They will not buy.
True.
So, again, if we begin to subsidize everything, we may not get to where we are supposed to be as at when due. But importantly, price control mechanism is not working in Nigeria, which also the government needs to help us to regulate. Cost of production high, agreed, but there should be a price control. I think something happens to me that shocked me the most. I was asked to go get something, and as of Saturday, it was at 39,000 naira. By Monday, I got there, they said it's now 43,500. I asked the young man, are you sure you know?
It's the same thing.
He said, that is the current. I had to just call my wife and say, sorry, you need to go check other places. So the next door she knocked, they told her 44,000. I said, all right, no problem. So which means here is still better.
Yes.
Now, invariably, you will agree with me that the factor that triggers all of these needs to be checked. And if the factor is not checked, it's also going to keep affecting every sector of Nigeria. You need to, and that's why anything you want today, you'll be ready to get it. If it is at 10 naira, please, if you can afford it, get it. But before you will get to that level, that is why we need to also ask people, How regularly do they check themselves? Some of us, we relax, we wait, see when it get bad before we begin. Now, the practitioners also, they are not happy that things are going on, but they cannot do otherwise. So on our part, we need to do more. Again, let's do a paradigm shift to it that the companies producing, they should also help us to fashion a way. You produce in Lagos, you transport down to Abuja, transport down to Sokoto, transport down to Maiduguri. Now, if you had all of this together, there is a reason why some of these things have become so expensive. Because how are they taking those things to these people? So we need to put all of this together and begin to realize that if government should subsidize it, how are we sure there will be a continuity? How are we sure that at a time government will say, no, I am removing my hand, somebody will not complain? And remember, we are talking about health sector. The same thing applies to the education sector. Now, government is saying, now I'm handing off, my hands are off from financing or budgeting for institutions. But you realize some schools rose up and said, okay, 90,000 will become 240,000.
True.
And children fought on behalf of their parents. And you could see all sorts of things that took place from Unilag to AU to Uniport to Uniben and many other institutions. Lately, Uniben. Now, we need to ask ourselves, when these people were getting money, making from somewhere, nobody asked question, how are they even surviving? Now that governments are saying, oh, we are removing our hand. So what do we do? How do we sustain? I saw a publication where they said, a particular institution said, nobody should expect any power supply as before till January next year. Now ask myself, so does it mean that these people cannot afford to buy diesel again? So we need to look inward. If we need to generate money to also finance ourselves, then we need to also do more. How can we do more? If I pay, make sure that what I paid for is judiciously used for that purpose. Again, is go back to the government. The little you are also getting, let it be said that you are using it for what is expected, so that the more money in circulation, the more it gets to the common man. For instance, a bricklayer who works after the day job, he knows that he needs to buy paracetamol and he is paid the exact amount he is supposed to be paid. Do you know that to buy a drug of 1 naira will not be difficult? But when you tell somebody who has worked from morning till now and say, wait till tomorrow, there's going to be a problem. And these are some of the things we need to also look inward. And now let's see how we can reduce the load of subsidy on virtually everything.
We'll go on a short break, get a drink of water. We'll be right back for the discussion. Going to now talk about the government. Are there any specific monetary or fiscal policy measures being considered or implemented to address the current inflationary pressures?
Now, if you look at the current CBN governor, I think the man has tried as much as he can to stay away from the camera, just to see what they can do on the ground on their own as to how they can better the country economically, even down to our currency. And again, we also need to at least give kudos to them. At least we are seeing slight changes at a point where we have the Naira dollar rose to about 1,300. Suddenly, it's coming down. Maybe they are finding their way in dealing with speculators. Again, the central bank, and you agree with me, there was no MPC meeting last month.
True.
So now, which means they are working internally to see how they can put in order their own house even before they present themselves to the public. So we may need to wait patiently a little bit. Hopefully, by the end of this month or the first week of December, we should be able to see a good statement from them again. All right, that have confidence in us. We are working and to make things work better, especially where it has to do with both the FX and the interest rates in Nigeria.
So how does core inflation impact the overall economic landscape in the country?
Now the question is, do the common man know core inflation in Nigeria?
Okay, go ahead. Explain to the common man, please.
so when you say core inflation, now, what the common man knows is give me and I will use. But when we come to the open and in books, we begin to say core. What is actually the core? The core has to do with what comes to the people table. All right? Now, if that thing is not there, it becomes a problem. And one of these is the same food that we have talked about. So, again, we need to also see what are they doing. Now, I understand even in some states where they have to distribute items, even aside from whether the government, federal government has given, you have to just give out some things out to people. You see some individuals also doing the same thing. You see some local government doing the same thing. Now, when we get to that level, where we just have this feeling that there is hunger in the land, then we can reduce even the rate of criminality in the country. But when we are looking at it, the fact is that core inflation is affecting us. It is affecting us in Nigeria as of today, based on the fact that I can't remember now the percentage of it compared to every other inflationary rate. But you will agree with me that that core inflation is what is even soaking everybody up. And they just need to also look inwardly.
So is there any specific, the monthly inflation rate show a decrease from the prior month. What factors contributed to this, and is there expectation for that to continue?
Well, like I said earlier, CBN are working, and let's hope that the work will continue that same way. Now we're actually not seeing much press release from them, unlike what we used to experience in the past. So now we are trusting them a little bit, especially as economists will say, better for you to get your work right than to speculate when it is not right. Right? So now they are working, and let's hope the work will. So definitely, if the country keep growing like this, and again, the more more investors that comes in, the more we also begin to have a shift. So again, what shifts are we looking at? We are looking at either down or upward shift. So if we are looking at the inflationary rate dropping, they need to do more. Doing more has to do with everybody. So currently, things are going on. And you also give it to the government. Yeah, it's not a rocket science for anybody to say the government will just come in and come and perform magic. No, it's not going to happen anywhere in the world. If it had been this is what will have happened. Sincerely, it's just like telling somebody, if you had married earlier, by now you'll have had 3 children. Is that how easy it is?
No.
That when we have some people that have been waiting for many years, what if you married early and you began to wait? This is how we should see government business. Somebody coming in, aside from him being part of the system, you should also know that he cannot just come and say, oh, this is my vision, and it is what everybody must do. He must gather people together. In the same way he has gathered people, there are some people that will also look at it that, no, I can't tailor towards what you have said. This is what I also have in mind. And they must disagree to agree on certain issues. So maybe, if anybody will ask me, we should give them a little more. This is just how many months into their tenure. 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, which is not even up to. Please, let's give them. Let them present even their own first fresh budget. And let's see how far they will carry us. And let's see how far we can go under the new government as a nation.
So the inflation rate is squeezing consumer spending and saving. How does it also constrain manufacturing productivity?
It affects them because it is what you buy that brings more money to everybody. It is what you pay me that determines what I take to the market. So now I don't have money to buy. How do I go to the market? Okay, that's one. Two, you have stocks. Go to, so you know, some of these things, thank God it's you people's job. When you go on the street, go to any market around you, you will agree with me that you see shops loaded with stocks and a few buyers. And sometimes you have money and the next thing is you discover that the money cannot even afford to buy the quantity of what you want. So if they are not also meeting their own targets, how do they produce the more? And that is why most of the manufacturing companies have devised means in which they don't say directly again. They just tell you, wholesalers come, gather, we'll give you this stock, pay a certain amount, go sell, bring the money back to us. Pushing risk from away from their own end. The wholesaler too will do the same thing, push it to another person, and like that, the markets keep going. Now, when it gets to the final point, which is the consumer. Now, somebody was sharing with me yesterday where he said there was a day she went to the market with a whooping 210,000, and she had a list. And on the list, she has not gotten to the half part of the list, and she has spent over 170 something.
I'm not surprised.
And she asks herself, so do I need to go back home? Because it's obvious I cannot match up this list. So now the reality is on us. So everybody is feeling the heat. That's just the truth. Sure. Everybody is feeling the heat. So what do? Is that we, as much as we are giving government a little more time to get it right, we also need to be on government. As we are on them, we check even government spending. So that everybody, this is what I have noticed. Sending it to any quarter shouldn't be a problem. Letting government know that your SSCs in this particular aspect can be used for this also thing. And you know, Nigeria is a nation where we only see problem, we don't provide solution. So if anybody notices a problem, the set of people should be able to also say, this is a solution. So if they do not, then we now know how to gather ourselves and say, no, let's go and meet this person again. This is what we suggested, and this is what you are doing again. So until we get to that level, you remember, it was a fight of the labor union that led to the fact that where government said they would begin to pay extra 35,000 naira. All right? Now, what happens to those in the private sector? Has their salary been increased? Now, if that has not been done, what is government doing with these people? Are you looking at other palliative that can come to them? Because importantly, they are more than those in the government offices. Sure. All right? So what do we do to also help those ones? So these are ways in which ordinarily we can reduce the pressure and again increase our purchasing power. And if you ask me, that's why I love our president. He has said it even before becoming president. He said purchasing power in Nigeria is just too high, so they need to reduce it. So we shove it aside. Now it has come, we are seeing the reality. Now, the essence is that truly, how many people can actually go to any store outside the shore of Nigeria and buy 5 million worth of item? And you say, I have cash. You must use other means to pay. But in Nigeria, I can just hold a small bag and go to any store. And what I have in the bag will be as high as any amount. And I will buy what I want to buy. Nobody will query me. So if we also have an opportunity where there could be room for mortgaging, if I need to buy, you are a manufacturer now, for instance, automobile manufacturer, I need to buy a car from you, and I tell you, okay, this is my pay slip, and this is what I can pay at first, and this is, let's do the calculation of what you will be deducting every month. Sincerely, all of these pressure will also go down. But when you don't have, you need a car, and the car dealer is saying, I want to give you at XYZ, and you are saying, I have ABC, and the person would rather tell you, go back home, work, earn more, and then come back. By the time you agree to that, you go back home and come back, and they tell you the price has changed.
Sure.
So now, how are we being affected? We are affected because everybody it is what I have that determines what you get.
So we're going to take a look at last year. How does the current inflation rate compare to previous months, especially concerning the year-to-year comparison with October 2022?
Again, this takes us back. Remember, we said our inflation rate in the over 24 months now have been on the increase. Now, if you say last year, which means it has been on the increase since that last year. So we should be looking at maybe 2021,
okay,
when it was at least a little bit. Now, again, we still need to ask ourselves, the manager of the economy, where do they get it wrong? Because they are the one managing the economy. Where do they miss it? Was it that they slept all off somewhere? Is there anything that they ought to have done that unfortunately they could not do? So these are questions that we need to also ask those our economic managers. So now, is government aware of all of this? The answer is yes. What are they doing as to how to reduce the pressure? The answer is nobody can answer except they. So the important thing is, again, is when all of this began, when people noticed, what do we do as individuals? What do we do? Remember, when we growing up, I know there used to be a pressure group that pressure government, do this, do that, do that. Now, all the pressure groups we have now, what are they doing? Are they waiting for their own time to also pressure our economy to go down? Or they are only waiting, let it continue, after all, I'm okay. All right? Now, both, thank God we are in a democratic setting, the opposition party, the labor union, the CSOs, and plus every individual, even down to the religion houses. We can all become a pressure group to government. Why? We use every means that we have to address the issue that is affecting people. If this thing is not working, there should be somebody that can speak up. After all, most of these economic managers attend both mosque and church.
True.
They attend functions. And they even organize international functions where papers will be delivered. What do we do at the end of the paper delivery? So these are all of the things that we need to look at. Where did we actually get it wrong? And what are we doing to also retract our step? Saying, let's go back. Is it that there is something we left that we totally forgot to keep doing that is now affecting us, affecting the economy as well? Okay, can we go back to that thing? Don't forget, change is constant. What we used to do yesterday may not be the same today.
True.
So ordinarily, what do we do again to match up with the reality of today? So if before now, remember at a point in time, they told us agriculture is the order of the day in Nigeria. Suddenly, oil came. Oil is what we are shouting now. Everybody has moved even from oil except only Nigeria. People are now in tech. So what are we doing to exploit the tech industry to also improve the country? Because if we are not moving as others will leave us where they met us.
True. So, Mr. Adisa, based on the current trends, what is the outlook of inflation in Nigeria in the coming months?
Even October, even September, we are 27.01 or 10. In October, we became 27.76. Then, what do we expect in November? Knowing fully well that has anything really changed?
Not really.
So, if anything has not changed really, then we should not expect anything too much. Overrating sometimes also causes hypertension. Right? So, we should just keep fighting. We should keep having faith that one day, even if we don't get to the point where we want to be, but we can move closer. And in moving closer means we need to also do more. The government needs to also do more. Telling us we will roll out this, when it does not come with time, does not speak well of anybody. If you know you do begin a thing in December, tell people by December, begin to work out your modalities. Because the question of interest anybody will ask is, before you came into power, you must have had a template. Now, when you are in power, don't use that time to build that template. It shows lack of preparedness.
True.
So now, If you are prepared, present this thing. When people look at it, they will also see one or two. They can also chip in. Let's delete this, put this, let's adjust this. Now, when you do all of that, it will now help us to say, okay, in 6 months. Now, take a look at the MTT. It has started. It's a plus. So, if other things that can also affect the downtrodden from the humanitarian affairs can also start, then we can say, oh, truly government is hearing the voice of every one of us. But in a situation where it's not happening, then there is a problem. So if government can start that 3MTT suddenly, then there are other programs they can also begin that can also reduce this pressure of inflation on people.
So quickly, you mentioned the CBN is going underground and trying to work before they actually come out to the public to say what are their plans for Nigeria. So what do you think their plans should be? What is positive for Nigeria that the CBN should look at and the federal government?
One is you should look at the FX market, which is actually another determinant factor to everything within the country. Again, they should also look at the source of financing most of the projects we have in Nigeria. 3, they should look into the banking sector as well. And 4, they should also guide governments on borrowings. And if they can do, you will agree with me, we will have a nation we can truly make a reference to. Why will people want to abandon Nigeria, go out today? It's just because when you wake up in the morning and there is no possibility of meeting or having anything done, or you'll be discouraged. So the next thing you do is you just see people lost hope in the country. So, but if CBN, with the little they have done so far, what brought us to this point, let them work on it. How can we now move forward? It's still within the same system. Again, let them be bold enough to tell government the truth. They are not politicians, for crying out loud. They are financial institutions that should be guiding government and its spending. They should be bold enough. Oh, sir, you appointed me, I know. But I think there is a way we can work around this system so that it will also affect us. Then we will begin to see the effect. But unfortunately, again, do we have a set of individuals who can do that within the government?
I would have loved for us to talk about the Nigerians, what they would do about that, but our time is up. Mr. Edisa, thank you for coming into the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Do have a good day. I am Maria Adozakari. Till next time, stay blessed. So what's